It's not just about sitting in front of a client. You need to know, A, how to run a business, and that's generically, not just a mortgage business, but you also need to know about marketing and how to get yourself out there and how to tell the world that your doors are open. But the saddest thing I see are people who have just started up and they're asking the basic questions in a public social media group because they don't have anyone surrounding them that can help them. Don't forget that if you're going self-employed, you need to make sure that you're getting the same financial advice that you would recommend to your clients. And I just think that this industry gives people so many opportunities to grow. Try not to run before you can walk. Let's crawl and then let's walk and then let's jog and then let's run. Try not to run instantly, and the right support will guide you through that for sure.
For the mortgage brokers out there feeling lost, feeling like they are held back in their business, maybe you started with excitement, like, yes, I got my CMAP qualification, I'm ready to go. But then you felt like, what is this part of the job? Rates going up, rates going down, lenders messaging us at 5 p.m. saying rates are changing today. You've got to reapply and do your application again. Then you've, probably set yourself up to work from home and you're starting to feel a bit lonely. Basically, I've seen this over the last 10 years, having been a business development manager for a brokerage and having done that also for a lender. Over the last 10 years, I've seen every single type of mortgage setup brokerage that you can imagine, from the skyscrapers in Canary Wharf all the way through to literally someone's back garden or spare room, in Scarborough. Like, I've literally been up and down the entire country and I've seen so many different mortgage broker setups. And something that is common, and how I would sum it up, is that mortgage brokers, or you could come from any background, right? But you might think, do you know what? That career looks good to me. I want to become a broker. I'm going to get my CMAP qualification and I'm going to have a lifestyle business. I'm going to work for myself, around my kids. And yes, this industry will allow you to do that. It is phenomenal for that reason. But what a CMAP qualification doesn't teach you is how to market yourself, how to run your business, how to scale your business, how to recruit into your business, how to do admin in your business. It doesn't give you that. And that being a mortgage broker is so much more than just knowing lender rates and products and how to advise customers. So for that reason, I'm going to let the experts speak about this topic and how you can be a thriving mortgage broker in today's economy and in today's industry. So for today's show on The Money Honey, welcome back everyone, by the way. If you are a loyal listener, I appreciate you so much. If you are new, you are welcome here. Just as a quick intro, The Money Honey show is all about giving a voice to the women in our industry. But this show is no doubt going to be suitable to anybody, right? But we interview women in the property, finance and construction industry, bringing in their knowledge, their power, their talent and their stories. So today, we have the wonderful Ashley Edwards from Just Mortgages. Hello, Ashley. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Oh, I'm really good, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me. Thank you.
No, I know these things, honestly, thank you, because these things take time. And I really do value your time that you're giving us here today. And in fact, I know that a lot of mortgage brokers would benefit so much from hearing your wisdom, from your extensive career and experience within this industry. So tell us a bit about your background, Ashley, and what role you've been playing in the mortgage industry.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I went into mortgages when I was 21. I'm not going to disclose how long ago that was, but it was a fair while. It was a fair while. And I then I was employed as a mortgage advisor and I moved into the sales management side, of mortgages with my employer at the time, and stayed in that for quite some time and stayed at the same business. So my experience extends into 30 plus years of the mortgage industry, and sales and development of each individual mortgage advisor. And then I moved into the self-employed arena around 9 years ago now. And since then, I've been helping people to set up their own businesses in mortgages, but also if they're feeling a bit at a stuck point, or they're not quite progressing in the way that they want to progress, or they need some help or support, then that's where we specialize, really, in helping people start up and also develop their business at the same time.
So mortgage brokers getting their qualifications, coming in and, all of a sudden they're faced with this gigantic industry that's forever changing. And you've said it before, changes daily, rates come in and you're like, oh my gosh, they've gone up, they've gone down, lenders pulling this product, and they're constantly navigating an ever changing industry. But they worked really hard to study for their exams and they've got their qualifications. They just want a flexible business. What do you think makes a successful broker from the start? Like, what do they need to have in place? How do they need to navigate their business?
That's a great question. I could spend all afternoon answering that, but if I'm going to download it into some pinpoints for you, I would say the very first off is you need to do your research, and set your expectations. If we're talking about someone who, you and I see frequently, don't we, Ros, where, they want a lifestyle business and they just say, okay, I'm going to get my CMAP exams. I want to start in this business. It looks like a great industry. Here's my exams. Off I go. The first thing you need to do is take a step back and take a breather, because so many people just come running into that. And I would suggest doing your research first, simply because, again, as you've just described, your expectations are that the industry doesn't kick off from the first day that you have passed your exams. It's not just about sitting in front of a client. You need to know how to run a business, and that's generically not just a mortgage business, but you also need to know about marketing and how to get yourself out there and how to tell the world that your doors are open. But if you take a slight step back from that, you also need to know your trade. So CMAP does not teach you your trade. It gives you the very, very basics of, mortgage advice and takes you through general scenarios, etc., etc. But does it teach you your trade? Are you ready to sit in front of a client and give them, a whole in-depth knowledge point from the mortgage industry? No, you're not. So you must make sure that you've got the right support around you, and, that I think is paramount just after your business plan. And any decent support that you have will help hold your hand and guide you through to the point where you believe you feel okay. And when you're self-employed, that is the most important thing. It's not what someone else thinks. It's what you think. It's what your success rate is, and it's what's right for you. And so you need the right support in place until you want to let go of that hand-holding scenario and you feel comfortable. And I think the third thing that I would say to you here is to take it one step at a time. Don't, there's that old saying, isn't there? Try not to run before you can walk. I would literally start crawling first. Let's crawl, and then let's walk, and then let's jog, and then let's run. Try not to run instantly, and the right support will guide you through that for sure.
I completely agree with that, Ashley, apart from the marketing bit, because I've had to take a different approach where, yes, they need to learn how to market themselves. But if someone is like less than a year old, maybe even less than 2 years old in their business, and they come to me like, I've been told I need to get myself out there on social media, I need to get out there. I don't take on usually clients that are that early in the process. And you think, well, why, Ros? That's when they need the most help. But actually, I find that brokers focus on new business, new business, new business. I want new people in, new people in. But actually, do they have the infrastructure to hold that volume of business? Do they have the budget? Because it's not that, I also am very sensitive and delicate around new established brokerages or broker. And they're going to be very cash flow sensitive. They're going to be very sensitive around like their earnings, because they've not got the structure or the experience. So I often kind of put them off hiring professional help like ourselves, not because I don't want the business, but because I want to be of value to that business, not a cost that's going to stress them out. Because, marketing yourself takes time, building your brand takes time. And so if you're doing it from day one and you're expensing that, yes, you get it done properly, but actually you're more likely to give up. From what I've seen, you're more likely to give up at the beginning because it's not immediate quick wins. Do you notice that, Ashley, at all? That, brokers tend to have that quick win attitude. They're not thinking about their business 5-10 years from now. They're thinking, I need leads today and I need to make some mortgage applications.
Yes, entirely. I think if you've got that expectation from the start and you've not planned well enough, then naturally the quick wins is what you're going to go after. And any new start business would want to go after the quick wins. But in the mortgage business, it isn't just marketing, social media that brings you in your leads. You're 100% right. I think some people out there do think that the only way to build a mortgage business is through, marketing, sometimes expensive at that. There are some expensive things out there, aren't they, that they feel like they have to invest in. So again, that comes back to your research, doesn't it? Marketing and making sure that the world knows that your doors are open are the right thing to do. But once you know what you're doing, because like you said, unless you have the infrastructure and the knowledge to be able to deal with those clients, which you need to have first, then what's the point in opening the floodgates? But you do need lead sources, because you do need to get your clients from somewhere. Where you get them from depends on you, your business plan. Maybe if you've got a mentor, which is what I was suggesting before, that you definitely have some form of mentor if you're new into this game. You can start with, maybe some slower lead sources so that you get your trade before you open the floodgates, if that makes sense. So I certainly wouldn't disagree with what you're saying there. I think every business needs to be marketed and marketed well, but once it knows what it's doing.
Yeah, totally. Because like I say to these newbies that come to me, have you explored the other avenues? Like, have you read my book? There's £14 there of total gold that could be worth £15,000, but I've put it all into a book for £14. So have you read that book? Oh yeah, but it takes too long. And I'm like, but it's your business. You need to do everything that you can at the
Yeah.
beginning. I mean, I started a business with no money. I borrowed my husband's laptop. I couldn't even afford my own laptop, let alone getting coaching and professional support. Like, I couldn't do that. I had to design my own logo. I'm not a graphic designer. I did everything like as on my own as I possibly could, because I couldn't afford to outsource. But it taught me so much, and it brought me on a journey of then being able to scale and develop and improve. But that's the advice I give to brokers when they say, yeah, but I need to get leads. And I'm like, right, leads come from relationships. People won't give you their life savings and tell you, here you go, get me a house, just because you put a video up on Instagram. That's not going to get you a lead. What's going to get you a lead is building a community, relationships, people that that like and trust you. They might not need a mortgage today. So I always kind of steer them towards exhausting their existing network. If you are looking to go on social media and attract strangers into your life to get a mortgage, you have to take a step back and think, well, am I handling my existing network, my friends, family, the local community, the local networking events, before you start scaling to the point of attracting strangers from the internet that you've never met before that want to buy from you? You still need to keep your presence out there. I absolutely do recommend that you start on social media immediately, but there's so much expense to running a brokerage, isn't there, Ashley? So how can you run a lean brokerage? How can you start being a broker without major expenses but still get enough infrastructure and support? What do you think are the absolute, like, if you had to list 5 of the most important elements in your business that you should get immediately, what would that be?
Great question. And again, something else I could spend 3 days going through. But yeah, let's pinpoint it down. So I've said this already. It has to start. Your number one priority, if you're new into this game, is that you need to have support stroke mentor. It may both, if not, both those might be the same thing. You need that, and you need to be in touch with someone who does know what they're doing. I think without that, it is exceptionally hard to start any business, let alone in, the financial services world for a start. So definitely support and mentorship. The second thing is, and I know this might sound strange, but I have seen the reverse of what I'm about to say. You actually need to be prepared to speak to people. And I really don't mean that in a condescending way. I'm picking up on what you've just said. You have to go out and build relationships. So if you're the type of person who has not got the personality for relationships and doesn't like to, I'm going to say expose yourself. I think there's probably a better phrase than that, but I'll use networking groups as an example. With a networking group, that's a great way to build relationships and get connections, but you need to have the personality and the faith that you can rock up to a networking group and you can speak to people that you've never met before. If that isn't in your nature, then you might find this quite hard. Your nature needs to be one where your effort into your relationships is going to go in. And, even when you've got past all of that and you perhaps don't need your networking groups anymore, as the case may be, you still need to have that kind of ability to speak to people. So I would question that as well before you start going into the mortgage game, because you need it to get your leads and also to get, deal with your leads when you get them. The third thing I would say is you need, the saddest thing I see, Roz, and this is a personal opinion here, is when I look at, the groups, and there's loads of help out there publicly for people, which is really good. But the saddest thing I see are people who have just started up and they're asking the basic questions in a public social media group because they don't have anyone surrounding them that can help them. And that's the saddest thing I see. I mean, what I will say is hats off to you guys for doing that and for asking the question. And it's brilliant that these groups are there. But it is so sad when you see someone and it's obvious that they're really struggling to understand what it is that they're doing, on a day-to-day basis. And you have to have that right in your mind. You really do have to have that right in your mind. And your expectations need to be that it isn't going to come in a week, because it's not. So whilst you're building that, you need to have the funds in place. And that might seem like a basic one as well, but you've got to have funds to be able to support you, or be in a position where you can be supported, whatever that looks like. And there's a lot of people that are wowed by the mortgage industry and how much money, can be made and how lucrative your business can be. And that's 100% right, but not from day one. And that's something else that I see people do. They really struggle. They're not, from 24 hours into the business earning what they want to earn, and then they give up. And all that hard work that's gone into those qualifications, the exams to get that, because they're not properly prepared. So those don't sound like anything exciting. I think that's probably the advice that you would give to anyone starting any business. But in particular in financial services, and particular with mortgages, it's such a vast subject. You can't expect that you're going to know what you're doing in a really short space of time. So you must plan it, and you must talk to the right people to plan it first. I think those would be my fundamentals, if that answers your question.
Every word you said is true. I couldn't agree more with everything that you've just said. It is exactly how I would put it, building those relationships, building the foundations, building the infrastructure in your business, making sure you can handle the capacity and not being transactional. I think that's what it really does come down to. Also having a very good, flow, like a good customer experience. How do you feel, Ashley, and what is the conversations that you guys are having at Just Mortgages with adopting AI, adopting systems, trying to give the customer a better experience, and also reducing the workload for you as a broker? Like, you've got to do a lot of things. If you can avoid doing it manually, then surely we should be embracing that. How do you guys take that stance?
Do you know, that's very topical, and I've been talking about that all week, to be fair. I totally agree. And the mortgage and the financial services world, and I can say this because I've been in it for some time, so it qualifies me to say it, can be quite old fashioned. Going back 30 years for me, my suitability reports and fact finds used to be literally in pencil. And there was a fax machine if we were really lucky. And, now technology is what people expect, particularly those people who are entering the mortgage market. The youngsters these days, and again, I'm qualified to say that the youngsters these days want speed. They also, dare I say this, resist a little bit the whole relationship and speaking, words to each other thing a little. So where you've got those with your clients and they want to deal with you remotely and electronically, you need to be up to speed with that. That doesn't necessarily mean that your business has to be entirely that, because there's still, a large percentage of the population out there who wants to deal face to face, and who wants to deal with the human side of things. So I think I would make that part of your expectation as well. You need to be very diverse. I think saying, oh, well, I will only deal in a face-to-face basis is probably a little bit naive these days. And, oh, well, I'm doing everything remotely and everything via an app is also a little bit naive these days, because the age range of people wanting mortgages is vast. So I think you've got to set your expectations right on your diversity. The other thing I would say is, where you are these days, your systems that you use, the majority of them are capable of using AI, are capable of customer portals, and are capable of speed and reducing that old-fashioned paperwork that you've talked about before. Where I see this as a problem is that, probably, what percentage would I give this? Maybe bordering on about 70% of people that I deal with are resisting that and are finding it a little bit scary. And I kind of get it. I do get it. We move really quickly, don't we? And AI is quite a scary thing, but if it's what part of your customer base wants, then that's what you need to adapt to. And the systems that are out there in the marketplace now will allow you to do it. What you need to do is become flexible and learn how to do that. Is very possible. Very, very possible. So to all the mortgage brokers out there, I would say, diversify. Don't put yourself in one bracket. Put yourself in all of them.
Again, every word is true. Every word couldn't be more perfect, because I too have to embrace AI. I could bury my head in the sand and say, well, I'm all about like personality and the personal approach and da da da. But I've had to embrace AI and to make life easier for my clients, and also for my team, to streamline like the work process, the process, speed things up. But I'm building an AI app myself, which I am going to be launching to brokers on, and to be in a little AI app, like their little marketing assistant, all in one app. And that will, the vision for that is to help more brokers, because not everyone can work with me on a one-to-one basis, is to help more brokers, but also to help brokers reduce their costs. Because if I can pull together an app, which I'm working on at the moment, that can help you market your business, your brand, and put your name out there at a fraction of the cost, and also at a fraction of the time, then we're all thriving. So I've had to adapt and think, in fact, now that I'm doing it, I think I'm late, Actually, I'm like that pressure on myself of like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? But it just wasn't right then, and it feels right now. So I'm adopting it, I'm adapting. But honestly, I have no clue. Like, who am I? I don't even recognize myself. I've always said I'm not a techie person. I'm really not a coder. I'm nervous. I'm so nervous on this journey because I'm like, what if I spend loads of time and money on something that's not going to work? Like, I'm back at the beginning. I'm 5 years into my business now, and I'm starting to feel like, I think I got this. So, like I'm in the groove, and now I'm making myself feel new again. And I'm like, oh no, I feel like a newbie. And it's scary because it's unknown territory. So I do understand how brokers feel when they're like, oh, I just got into the groove. I'm just settling in. Now, why this? Now, why do I have to do videos? Now, why do I have to go, but that's what a business is, and you need the right support. So speaking of support, Ashley, what kind of people do you think brokers need to surround themselves with around their business? Because they're always focusing on getting new clients, but that's not what makes up a successful mortgage broker business. Who else should be involved?
Great question. Quite a lot of people. And I think from all aspects of the business, right from day one, I mean, most importantly, you need your lead sources and your relationships of those people who are going to feed you. And they can come from all manner of different directions. There are a lot of people out there that believe that lead sources are either just through social media or just through estate agency or, just through putting my business on Facebook, etc., etc. And that is far from it. There are opportunities out there all over the place. And you've got to try and find the people that can help you with those connections. And I would literally make sure that you are not just on social media and into networking for your customers, but you are there with your peers and building relationships with other businesses that can help you and you can help them. I mentioned business networking before because, when I first started looking at this, it was a great way, if you've never done this before, to start building those kinds of connections. Even things as simple, Roz, as the Chamber of Commerce, which people are quite scared of. Do you know what this is all about? Businesses and relationships. And I even recommend starting and building yourself with those kind of places too. You also need to make sure that you've got the right people talking to you about money, because this is what it's all about, and not just money from a mortgage perspective, but how to handle the finance of a business. It's as simple as, am I a limited company? Am I not a limited company? Am I going to grow in the future? Am I not going to grow in the future? What does it look like to you? And therefore, what financial support do you need from an accountant, from, anyone, even a financial advisor? Don't forget that if you're going self-employed, you need to make sure that you're getting the same financial advice that you would recommend to your clients. And yet I see so many people that don't do that, which to me is bizarre. You've got to look after yourself before you can look after everybody else. But like when you're on an aeroplane and they tell you to put your mask on first, do that. Definitely do that. Put your mask on first. So you need your lead sources, you need your connections, you need people looking after your finances. And again, I'm going to go back to this. If you're going to be with a network, you need to be with a network that helps you. And definitely when you're choosing your network, you need to ask them, how are you going to help me? How are you going to support me? How often are you going to do this? What does this look like? What do I expect from you as a new business or a semi-new business? What can you do to give me confidence that you're in my corner regardless of what happens? And you can turn round at any point and some curveball or wrecking ball come in your way. Do you have the confidence that you've got someone in your network who you can talk to help you? Or do you have to reach out to the general public? That would be what I would say. Make sure you've got all of those people around you.
Yeah. 100%. I'm totally with you on that, because that's what I was saying before about, becoming a broker, wanted to have this lifestyle business, working from home, around your family, But actually, there are so many other people involved in this industry that you need to lean on. There are some people want to shut themselves away completely. They say, oh, I don't want to post on LinkedIn because I want to be, there's no point posting on LinkedIn because only my colleagues and competitors will see it. And I'm like, but you need to understand what's going on in the industry. You need to raise your profile within the industry, because externally, when clients are looking in, if you're not known in your industry and you're just isolated at home, that doesn't give you a very good brand representation as well. So, it doesn't mean you have to go for all the awards and you have to win awards. It doesn't mean you have to do all of that stuff, but having allies in the industry, learning from others, learning from your peers, maybe collaborating on some stuff, because some brokers don't, for example, have that interest in getting into specialist finance, let's say, like the sector that I was mainly in, doing like bridging and commercial and stuff like that, but you're depriving your clients of having that access. So
Yeah.
if you're not going to proactively offer them a partnership with maybe someone else, if you can't do bridging and commercial yourself, but you maybe want to collaborate with someone else, then you could still offer that as an extension to your clients. Or your clients, if you get a lot of self-employed applicants, you want to be able to talk the accountancy language. You're not giving advice or tax advice, but you want to be able to understand their troubles. And so having a good accountant that you can lean on, again, would stand you in good stead with clients, because you understand what they're feeling, right? Like, I've chosen to become a specialist marketer for people in property and finance. I go to property events. I invest in property. I come to the mortgage events. You don't see that many marketers externally coming to like the Women's Recognition Awards and things like that. It's because I truly appreciate and value my clients' industry. I'm in it. I'm involved in it. I'm not just this external gremlin at home, just like writing content for you. I'm in the industry. And so I'm navigating it with you. And I feel you need to show your clients that you've got, like, I see brokers, for example, setting up their niches, like helping doctors get a mortgage. But how many doctors do you know? Like, do you spend time with a lot of doctors? And you're only doing that because it sounds like a good idea, because that's going to be lots of like good money. But do you have a community in that? Because if you start, it's like me coming out of, let's say I was working, Ashley, I don't know if you know, but I was a business development manager for a lender, doing, one of the biggest bridging lenders in the UK. Now, when I got made redundant, I could have turned around and said, right, I'm going to start a marketing business and I'm going to help pharmaceuticals with social media. That wouldn't have made any sense. My business, I don't think, would have gone very far if I had picked a niche that I wouldn't have any relevance to. And that's why I picked the property and finance industry, because I already had knowledge and expertise, and more than anything, some credibility in that industry. I had a reputation. So when it comes to advising your clients, Ashley, your brokers, when they're like, well, I don't know, I just do mortgages. Literally, anyone who wants a mortgage. How do you help them navigate a niche, or, really solidify a good plan and strategy?
Do you know what? I wanted to say, when you were saying all of that, then, that working in silos is one of the biggest problems that we have in this industry, and something that I neglected to say before, which I think is the route that you're talking about now. And what I see really frequently is exactly what you've just described, is people saying, I am a mortgage advisor. You will come to me for mortgage advice. I have these qualifications, so I actually know that I can spot opportunities for things that I don't specialize in, or I either can't or I've chosen not to. And one of the worst things that can happen for any firm in financial services, but specifically for mortgages, is where you're spending all this time with your client being marvelous, because you will be marvelous. So you'll sparkle in front of this client. They'll think they're fabulous. You'll spot an opportunity that you can't do anything with, and you'll either do nothing about it, or you will not know how to spot it in the first place, which is unlikely. But what I tend to see is people going, oh, look, there's a little bit of an opportunity there for someone to invest some money in a pension or stick some money in an ISA. I can't do anything about that. So I'm not going to say anything. And that, to me, is criminal. It's a bit like going to the doctors and the doctor saying to you, I can only look at your arms. I'm not going to look at your legs or anything else about you. I can only look at your arms. If you ask me about anything else, I can't comment on it. And I do think that's an issue. And I think where advisors can really expand their business is by getting connections with people who can write the business that they can't. Not only that, though, what advisors have to understand is that they can expand if they want. Some choose not to. And examples I'll give you here is that a mortgage advisor doesn't necessarily just need to advise on residential business remortgages and buy to let. If you want to specialize out into commercial finance, as you mentioned before, bridging finance, second charges, equity release, even move into wealth, and all things like that, if you're with the right place and you're surrounding yourself with the right people, you can do that yourself. And you've got to understand that either one of those options, so referring on or doing it yourself, gives an all round much better service to your customer. To me, you're going to get referrals, because if you say to someone, look, you've got 8 jobs in your history and therefore 8 different pensions, what I'd really recommend is that someone looks at these 8 pensions for you and you send them on to someone who can do that. That person then gets a superb experience, not only from you, but from them as well. They're going to remember you for making that connection. And you can then see how it spirals out into a world of referrals and really good relationships. But what I see instead is people going, well, I'm not going to send it to them because they might steal my client. In fact, I'm going to do nothing at all. And I just think, no, you're totally missing a trick. That's how you expand, by building the network around you or becoming multi-tasked, multi-skilled, sorry, is the word that I was after. And if you don't want to do that, expand your business and have people in it that want to do those extra licenses as well. And to me, that would be the way that you expand your business, by expanding your mind. And there are several ways to do that, as I've just described. The first step is to start with your thinking on it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ashley. That's phenomenal, because you can tell you've got that wisdom in the industry, having seen many brokers start, give up, ramp up, take things to the next level. But yeah, honestly, every single one of your words, and you are giving this value. I know you normally do this for just the brokers at Just Mortgages. So I really do appreciate you sharing your wisdom with the audience here today. So for that, I have to thank you for the time that you've given up today. Is there a message that you would like to end with, something that you wish for the industry, or something that you would like, a transformation you'd like to see in the industry, or anything like that?
What a great question. I think I would probably go back to what I've just said. I think that's one of my biggest frustrations is seeing people close their mind. And I just see that as the single biggest way to stay in a rut and not grow. And I just think that this industry gives people so many opportunities to grow. And that isn't necessarily, I don't necessarily mean in business size, or even, from a monetary point of view. You can grow in whatever way you want to. And, certainly from a, what's the word I'm looking for? From a wisdom point of view, you can grow that way if you want to. But that would be my wish, that everybody work together better than they do. I know we're all human beings, and I know there's a lot of commerciality out there that we've got to consider. But I think that if people were maybe a little bit kinder, and maybe, a little bit more considerate and willing to let other people in, and other sections of the industry in, I think the customer would get a better service all round, which leads to everything that we've really been talking to today.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Thank you, Ashley. Well, there you have it, everybody. Thank you for tuning back into the Money Honey podcast. Today, we've brought to you a industry leader, a pioneer in this space, helping brokers really shape their businesses. You know, this is invaluable. Obviously, Ashley works as part of a network called Just Mortgages. Whether you are part of that network or not, it doesn't matter. I hope you've taken something away from what Ashley has said today. Maybe it's another kick that you needed, that you're like, yeah, I forgot that. I absolutely need that. There was so much gold there. So maybe you even just got some practical tips about what to do next in your business. If you feel like you haven't got enough and you're like, no, I need more help, I'm not getting the help. Actually, this podcast has given me the realization that I haven't got enough support and structure around me. Go and explore a conversation with Ashley. Reach out, see what that can offer you. I'm not trying to steer people away or here and there from networks. That's your business. It's your choice. But even if it's a friendly reach out, friendly, having another ally in your industry, or maybe it's not to Ashley. Maybe you're thinking, actually, I have been holding myself back from making friends in the industry. And it's about time that I actually start getting to know who's who in the mortgage world. Then maybe that's the next step that you take, whatever it is. You can only really take yourself and your business to the next level if you actually take action. So take something from this, take action, connect with Ashley. And Ashley, thank you so much again for being here and for being such a great money honey.
Oh, no, thank you. I loved every minute. I like to talk and you've given me the opportunity. Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.